sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Once again, thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. I want to share with you part 3, the third key in success in sales and arguably life. If you remember correctly, the first key to success was your actions, right? It's your goal and your vision, and then it's your plan, and then it was the activities that you're doing on a daily and weekly basis. And then the second thing we talked about was your attitude, which is your belief in yourself and in your company and in your marketplace. And we talked about this a lot. The belief in yourself is really deep-seated confidence, right? That everything's going to work out okay, and that you're the right person at the right time. And that's not an external thing. That's a deep confidence inside of you. And then we talked about the other was the belief in your marketplace and your company. And that's all those three places where you make excuses, right? Where you say, I'm not good enough for this, hadn't been around long enough for that, I don't deserve this, or I'm worried what people think about me, or my company sucks, or this is a shitty marketplace, economy, whatever. Excuses. So if you got excuses, you will not succeed. As soon as things get hard, you'll start vomiting excuses and you'll be a loser. Nobody wants to be a loser, right? Don't be a loser. The third key is your approach. And there are 3 parts to approach. The first part is your strategy. The second part are your systems and your processes. And the third part are the tactics that you'll use. Let's talk about each of those and start at the top with your strategy. Let's go back to our goals and our vision, right? You had your goal and your vision for what you want to accomplish in the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years. How are you going to do that? Strategy, I see, is a lot like your plan. I see it as a little bit higher level than that, but it's just similar to a plan. People like to use that word strategy like it's something fancy. It's a plan. So I'll just make it more of a 30,000 foot plan. What are we going to be doing to grow our business? I'll share some of mine. My strategy for next year, which is in some of it is a continuation of this year. Number 1 is to reach out to associations and chambers of commerce to create some sort of a partnership, agreement, fee sharing, where we promote our stuff, or the Chamber of Commerce promotes what it is that we're doing over here. And we're able to reward them when we get clients because of them. We're able to reward them with a fee share. It's a win-win situation. I hate that win-win stuff. It drives me crazy. Cheesy crap. But anyway, it can help everybody, right? Gives us more exposure, brings in more people. The chambers and associations make a little bit of money. That's a good thing. The second part of my strategy is to do public talks, speaking to people in public, right? That happens, there are 3 or 4 ways. One of them are podcasts like you're listening to right now. You know, somebody asked me, would I want to speak to a group of 500 to 1,000 on a weekly basis? Hell yes, I would. Well, guess what? I get to do it on my podcast. By the way, my podcast coach and I were talking. I am blown away. We are listened to. We've got listeners in about 20 countries. And it's pretty damn neat. As far away as in Africa and in Europe and in Asia, all over the world. So those of you out there listening, South America. And those of you out there listening from far away, I appreciate you very much. Let me know who you are. Send me an email, Walker@WalkerMcKay. Would love to hear from you and what you're getting from this. So public talks, which would be podcast. I get paid to go speak to groups, which is awesome. I also do some free talks depending upon the situation. And then the last thing is I'm doing some webinars, which some of you have heard about. We're getting ready to do some more of those, couple of series this fall for the end of the year. And my third leg of the strategy is just a social media campaign like we've been doing. Working on a Facebook strategy and a LinkedIn strategy. They're really doing good stuff, bringing us a lot of information. A lot of you guys have reached out to us because of that. I appreciate it very much. So that's our big picture strategy, how we're going to grow the business. So let's talk about systems and processes. I didn't know there was such a thing as a system for selling. I didn't know what that even could be. But I had a coach many years ago that kind of showed me what a system was. And it's funny because we all do have a system that we follow. It's just whether we know it or not. And if you don't know your process, you don't know how to improve it. So one of the things I like about having a process, a well-defined process for selling with individual steps so that you can know where you are and you're not wasting time. My system teaches people to disqualify those prospects that aren't ready for you yet or just aren't the right fit. You disqualify and win anyway. Because if somebody's not going to buy, don't you want to know sooner rather than later? I've got a 7-step process with multiple steps in between. It's very simple. It's very simple. But have you evaluated your process for selling? You might want to look and write down the steps and figure out, okay, if this is what I'm doing, be able to go back and look and say, okay, that didn't work like I hoped it would. What do I need to change or adjust? Around here, my system, we can tell when something at the end of your sale, whether it turns into a yes or a no, you can figure out, okay, look, I win. That went great because I disqualified those people in the first meeting. I didn't waste time with them. Or you follow the process and somebody pays you for an evaluation. We're talking about this, doing a whole seminar on this in a couple of weeks. That's from following a process, understanding what it is you want the outcome to be. What's an ideal outcome? And I'm not talking about selling something. I want an ideal outcome to be a decision, yes or no. Because sometimes the answer is no. The right answer is no, either from you or from them. But have a process where you can screen people out that you are not going to be able to serve. Screen those people out that are not going to buy, that don't want to follow your process. Have a process so you can refine it over time. Selling is not convincing. Selling is not about educating. That's wrong. Selling is about educating. It's about educating yourself about what the prospect's dealing with. What emotional, compelling reason do they have, if any, to make a change? Then do they have a budget for it? And then do they have a decision process that matches yours or that you can understand, you can live with? If you don't have those things, move on. You're not going to close it. You're wasting time. And that's the one thing we can't ever get back. Think about some other processes. How do you onboard people? When you take them on, how do you onboard them? What does that feel like? How do you stay in touch with people? System processes around that. When and how do you ask for referrals? Systems processes around that. Networking. What are your processes for networking? For making calls? For following up? What is your process for leaving emails? What's the cadence that you use when you're making calls? All those are systems and processes that can be measured and managed. That's the science. And then there's art. And art is your own personality there. I don't want anybody to be a sales robot. If you're doing this the right way, if you're selling the right way, you can absolutely be yourself. Transparent, open, honest. Be yourself, the best version of yourself. That's what's so freaking cool. It is fun watching people shed the armor that they walk in with, the bullshit that surrounds them, and learn how to just be open and honest with other people. Be direct, be kind, not be some patsy. Some people are like, I just always tell the truth. That's what I do. That's fine. But do you know why you do that? Do you have a purpose, a strategy behind what you say? There are reasons you say what you say, right? Sales is not easy. Sales is simple, but it's not easy. The last piece we need to focus on are what are the tactics? Here are the words that you say. It's the questioning strategies that we have. It's how do you find out not just data, but how do you find out your prospects' opinions about their current situation? You're finding out their opinions. Their opinions about where they are right now, about the budget they have, about the issues that they have. Everybody has walked a different path. Everybody. Even your twin has walked a different path than you have. You see a lot of things the same, but they have different experiences. And you have to understand our job, our tactics should be used to understand what is the walk that that person has had that makes them believe what they do. Because maybe it's something that you would see as a gigantic problem that you would want to fix immediately, and they have no interest in it. Maybe on the other side, there's something that you say is, gosh, that's no big deal, and they're all over it, and they'd spend a ton of money to fix it. Your job is to find that. Your prospect doesn't give a shit about your opinions, about what you think, about why you think something's good or bad. They don't give a shit. Not until they paid you. After they paid you, then it's okay. Until then, shut up. Somebody says, what do you think about this? You say, well, I know what I think, but what do you think? Ask them. What you'll find is they rarely turn around and say, hey, what do you think about it? When somebody asks you what you think, they're just asking for a way to share their opinions. So, today, we talked about the third piece, right, which is approach. What is your strategy for getting new business? What is your strategy? Do you need to look at it again? Do you need to review it? Has it been the same as it always has been? And how's that working? Now the world is shifting. Will that strategy still work? Ask yourself why you think that. Ask yourself, how do you know? Don't be afraid to make changes. Don't be afraid to be open to different things. Think about your systems and your processes. What do you need? If you're a founder, you're running a company, what are the standard systems that you're using so that everybody's singing off the same sheet? What are you doing to make sure that it's your way that they're selling? You don't want 5 sales guys out selling their way. It will be 10 times more difficult. They need to have at least a process that they're following that you can coach them on, or whoever's in charge of them, whoever's on a process they can be coached on. If everybody's just being a cowboy, there is no coaching. You'll just be lucky. That's no fun. That's not a way to run a business. The last piece of the tactics, right? Think about the strategies that you think about the tactics. What are the questions you need to ask? What are the things you need to know? And there we go. That's a better focus. Instead of focus on the questions, think about what are the things you need to know from somebody, and then figure out what are the questions they need to ask to get there. I would tell you as a minimum, you need to know what their emotional, compelling reason is to make a change. If they don't have one, you got no deal. What's their budget? How much money, time, and effort and resources are they ready, willing, and able to spend to make that compelling problem go away? Even if they got $1 billion in the bank, that doesn't matter. It's how much money, time, and resources they're willing to spend making that problem, that compelling problem, go away. And then the last one is their decision-making process. All right? I'll give you a quick one. When we hope to make a decision? Why then? Who else besides you needs to be a part of that decision? What do you need to see or hear from us in order to be able to make a yes or no decision? Who else you talking to? The last one is how you're going to pick. If you go through those, 6 questions before you give anybody your information, you'll be a hell of a lot further down the road. So, number one thing we need to be a success in sales and in life is your activity. What are you doing? What is the work that you're doing? right, to grow your business. Number 2 are your attitudes, your belief in yourself, your company, and your marketplace. And number 3 is what we just discussed, right? It is your approach, which begins with your strategy for getting new business and your systems and your processes, and then the tactics that you're using to learn what you need to learn to see if this person is qualified to get your proposal. Do me a favor. It'd be great if you would review my podcast. Subscribe and review. I've got like 89 reviews now, trying to get to 100 by the end of the month. How about hook a brother up? Write a review. Stars are great, but just take a minute and write a couple of words down. What you're learning from the podcast. Is it good or bad? Whatever. What are your thoughts? Help me tremendously. We get over 100. Apple starts to pay more attention to us. Thank you all for listening. Thanks for sharing what you know. If this is something that you think someone else needs to hear, share the love, share the podcast. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening to the OBS Sales School podcast. If you haven't already, please take 1 minute to write a quick review for the show. It really does make a huge difference. Also, subscribe to the show and please forward this episode to somebody else who needs to hear it. As a bonus for listening, I'm going to give you access to a free mini course, 7 expensive sales mistakes you're making and what you can do about it. Go to www.7salesmistakes.com and get access to the free mini course. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the OBS Sales School podcast.